Hey everybody, welcome to a new video. Just wanted to start with saying, have you heard overwhelming by how many things you need to learn? Like if you'd like to do AI, you need to learn Python. If you'd like to do more games, you need to learn a C# or a C++. And if you'd like to do mobile apps, you need to learn Kotlin or Swift. And as a beginner, I always wanted to find a solution or a cross-platform solution, something like Java. But no one uses Java for obvious reasons. And there is a successor to Java, which is JavaScript. So, in this video, we're going to take a look at the idea of you only need JavaScript to do everything in IT field. So let's get started. As you can see, I open the whiteboard, and let's see. So first part of the video, I'm just going to compare JavaScript to all the different languages in one three charts. So first chart is performance. We have the low, which is Python slow, and at the top you have better than assembly. So let's put Python in the most obvious place. Yes, I don't need to explain. And C++ through C#, I would say I'd put like I think near at the no, not like really there. I think they're very good, but they like performance. Of course, if your only goal is to achieve performance, you do use something like C. And Rust. Yes, Rust is pretty fast. That's the only reason people learn Rust is to get the great performance. And JavaScript, I think we need to talk more about JavaScript and this idea. I've watched a lot of videos online, a lot of articles of JavaScript being slow, but I don't agree with that idea, because if you write like CPU intensive task in vanilla JavaScript, like no JS, no React, no nothing, just JavaScript and .html, you see that your code is very fast. Plus, you need to understand that JavaScript is limited by your browser, especially Chromium, I think. No, not only Chromium, like every browser. Your JavaScript doesn't have direct access to your CPU, to your RAM, and to your GPU. That's why it needs to use some layers, like some middlemen, which affect performance. So I think if we found a way to give all the system access to JavaScript, similar to C++, will have a very great performance. But now I think it's like somewhere in the middle. Of course, I understand that today nobody makes websites without Node.js, just like only plain JavaScript. That's why I put it like in the middle. The second part, we have the curve of learning, or how much time and how much you need to spend time to learn the language. So let's start with JavaScript. JavaScript is considered like one of the most easiest, but I consider it to be like the easiest language. It has a very beginner-friendly way, but there is still some aspects of the code, like classes. Like I don't like classes in JavaScript. I like them better in Python. So because of that, I think the chart of JavaScript will be something like you'll learn about variables, you'll learn about loops, functions, and so on. When you found about classes and more advanced type like async and await, like something that I still to this day struggle about, and especially get like Axios and some stuff. When you find the different frameworks like I would say frameworks like React, Nest.js, Node.js, and like you feel more stupid to think that you're not progressing by going backwards when you start learning all these different frameworks, and you think like, yeah, finally, I'm a great developer. When a new framework drops in, like you think you're stupid, but in reality, like you're basically a normal JavaScript dev. So I think this is like a very realistic chart for learning JavaScript. So let's continue with going on to the Rust. I would like to admit I don't know Rust, so this would be based on the experience of other people that I saw online. So I would say Rust is like very hard. It's harder, I think, than C++. Like I know C++. No, I don't really know C++, but I can understand the syntax. So so Rust is harder than C++, but it's not as hard as C or as assembly. So think like you just get started, it's hard, you get along, you sell different things, and you over time, like some more, well, and you get along, like you need some time to understand. Oh. So without this, okay, so without this part. So C++ and C Sharp, I put them in the same category because they are pretty similar. And their idea, no, they have different ideas, but writing C++ code and C Sharp code is not really different comparing to writing JavaScript to Python. So as a beginner C++ developer, yes, it's hard. It's not something like JavaScript or Python. So change the color. It's a bit more easier than Rust, but I think there's the same idea. But you get to the point where you feel like very confident, and because C++ doesn't have all this drama about different frameworks, because I have a very controversial thought of that the biggest obstacle in a program on a programmer is the different technologies that they have to learn. Like learning programming languages isn't that hard because if you understand the basics of programming, like variable loops, functions, if functions, and so on, any programming language will be just to understand the syntax and the language special abilities. And Python is like the most easiest for the list. So just get started. I think it's more easier than JavaScript. Just get started, and I think Python is most easiest to master because again, Python doesn't have that amount of frameworks. Of course, I understand that there is Django, there is Fast API, there is Flask, and so on. But still, I think Python is more easier to learn and more fun. Yes, I know. I really hated to learn JavaScript because I had to learn so fucking much. I hated like learning JavaScript and all the stuff. And even now, I don't really understand JavaScript. There's a lot of stuff that I don't understand, but I need to understand. Like, I fucking don't know how does WebSockets work, which I really want to understand, but I can't understand. But Python has, I don't know, a more easier way to get started. Like it requires less time to learn, and it's more fun. So this is my chart, a bit chaotic, but I think it's true. So now you have a third comparison, which is LLM knowledge, which is basically how well does AI work with programming languages. Where at the bottom you have very poor, where AI can write a simple script, and at the top you have like better than a software engineer. So you have Rust. Rust, I see, has the smallest community for languages available in this chart. And because of that, or because there is less code written in Rust, I would say it's like on the poor side. C++ and C Sharp also has a more closed community, but because these languages exist for so much time, so much code has been written, and so much documentation is available, which AI has access to. Python is like on the other side, but still, you of course you can write easily a function or a simple program with Python, but you can't really wipe code a Python program. But JavaScript, I think AI has been built for JavaScript. I think this is most true chart. And as you can see, this was the comparison. But the idea was video is not to say like, oh, JavaScript is the best language ever, and Python or C++ just sucks. It's just to say that you don't need to learn a new programming languages to do something new. So let's look at the different solutions that JavaScript has to offer for every programming field. I have made 5, which are mobile dev, desktop dev, games and graphics, AI, machine learning, and robotics and Internet of Things. So if you like to make a mobile app for iOS and Android, you will have to learn Flutter if you want a cross-platform solution, or Kotlin for only Android, or Swift for only iOS. Yes, understand, like if you're writing Swift code, or if you're writing Kotlin code, you'll have more access to your phone, to different APIs. But let's be real, the majority of today's mobile apps are just wrappers of the website that is available. So if you're writing a mobile app, so React Native, so if your goal is just to make a simple mobile app, which is basically your website but in a APK form, just use Expo, okay, and a framework built for and like a lot of apps, I think the most mobile apps out there use React Native or Expo. I think the Facebook app has using React, but they're using a more modified version, which has more control over the app. But I think like in the most cases, Expo is just it will be working fine. So desktop development, I have a very controversial opinion between developers, which is Electron.js. I really like Electron.js. It's I really like Electron.js. It's really great. You can write desktop application for Linux, Mac, and Windows, like cross-platform application, just using one language. From like something like basically Java, where you write Java code one time and you can run the Java code on every device that has a Java runtime. But of course, Electron has some downsides of it being security vulnerability. Like, yes, making secure apps in JavaScript is really hard. And yeah, if you're writing some very proprietary or something very secure app, I would suggest just to use Qt, like C++ Qt or PyQt or PySide. But in general, if your goal is just to make a simple desktop app and you only know JavaScript, it's like really good. But again, the most problematic problem is security. So if you don't care about security, Electron.js will be like really useful to you. And most desktop apps today are made using Electron.js. So VS Code, Discord, Slack, and I think most desktop apps. I think also CapCut, but I'm not sure about that. So Electron.js is actually used by everyone that builds desktop apps. So graphics and games. Of course, there is free JS, but the main issue of 3JS, it's hard to make games in 3JS. Of course, if your goal is just to make a showcase look, I can make a 3D environment in JavaScript, yes, 3JS is good, but it's like a really low level. It lacks all the features that a proper game engine has, like physics, better render, shaders, multiplayer. Oh no, you can achieve multiplayer via WebSocket, but WebSocket is a bit hard to work with. So yeah, so don't expect that you'll be able to make the next GTA 6 in FreeJS, because first of all, FreeJS doesn't have the full access to your hardware resources compared to a proper game engine. But if you'd like to make a simple game which is cross-platform, okay, or another OS which is available on every device, or on every device that has a browser, FreeJS might be the choice. AI in machine learning, I think everyone knows about it. So you have two powerful frameworks, PyTorch and TensorFlow. So I don't need really to explain why I choose these options. And the last thing is basically robotics and Internet of Things or input-output devices. And Oh, I forgot what was there. It's more of not really big community, not that big of frameworks or libraries are built in JavaScript. Like if you like to work with Raspberry Pi or Arduino, you'll still likely use Python or C++, thanks to their documentation. But there is a lot of so for robotics and the Internet of Things, you'll either use Journey 5 or Silent.js, which are powerful tools to work if using Arduino, Raspberry Pi, and different devices. So yeah, that's it. That's everything I want to talk about in this video. So again, let's make a quick conclusion or a TLDR about the main idea of this video, which is instead of learning different languages, which might take some time, you'll rather learn a JavaScript framework or a JavaScript library, which will shorten the time you need to spend to achieve your goal. But still, if your goal is just to make mobile apps, desktop apps, and AI or machine learning, JavaScript is highly suggested. But if you're making games, and especially like realistic games with a lot of features and a lot of like different stuff, and they're working with robotics and Internet of Things, you could use JavaScript. But if you have the ability to write C++ code or Python code, it's highly suggested. So thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and see you next time.